Okay, so with cube 7, this is one of the first cubes where you actually need to have a previous model in order for you to do this. So this is not a from scratch model, in other words. So cube 7 is based on cube 3 right here. So what I would recommend that you do is make your cube 3 into a group if it isn't already, and then just simply make a copy of it. I'm going to copy it out over here. Now, because this is a reference, I find that it's useful to open up my materials and then just apply a new color to it. Now, if it's not working where it will get the entire group, it's okay. Just double click in the group and then select everything and try it again, and that should work. If that doesn't work, just keep going a couple levels deeper and manually paint those surfaces. So I've painted this one red just because I'm not using red, and it helps me clearly identify that this is in fact just a reference cube. I'm also going to set up some keyboard shortcuts before I get going, and so to do that, I'm going to come over here to the dog, click in there, and I'm going to type the word hide. And I have this one that's grayed out right now. It says hide, make selected entities invisible. So yours probably by default doesn't have anything here, so just click in there and type H. That may say that it's used for some other tool like Orbit or something. Just hit OK. That's fine. You never use that tool. So hide is our first one. I'll click in here again and type unhide. And I have a lot of options for unhide. I'm going to go down to this one that says unhide all. And I'll click in here and type U. So that'll make it a little bit easier, but I'll show you what happens now. If this is a group, I'm going to select it and type H. And it appears to delete it, but in fact, it just hides it. If I want to bring it back, I'll simply type U, and it brings it back. So that's really useful whenever I'm using a selected model as a reference, because sometimes I want to sort of eliminate it or hide it. All right, so that with that set up, I'll also need to have completed cube 6 right here. So with cube 6, I would not make it a group just because I want to have access to each one of my sticks. So it's imperative that you modeled 6 correctly in that each stick should be a group. So if I double click on this yellow one, for instance, now I'm into each edge and each surface. I want to make sure I get out of that group before I make a copy. So I want one for each dimension. I want one blue one, so I'm going to hold shift, one yellow one, and one white one. So I've selected all of them. Another way that you could do this is also just to simply click and drag from right to left and then let go just over the areas where it touches. And then I'll make a copy using the move tool, tap control, and I will move it right over here. Just somewhere. It doesn't really matter right now where they're at. I just want it somewhere in this vicinity. Now, when I'm doing this, if I move some of these off for just a second, I'm going to take this yellow stick and move it just right here next to my board so we can compare them. So if I get in real close and if you modeled these correctly, you'll see that the sticks, I'll use my line tool, are 1/8 of an inch. Well, it should be. I'm going to click right on that corner there. It's 1/8 of an inch thick, and then my board is 1/16 of an inch thick. So there's a difference there in thickness. So looks like I drew a line there. The sticks are basically double the thickness. And so when we are making this model, what we want to do is essentially put a stick everywhere there's an edge of a board. So like this board right here, if I go into this group and I start to delete some things here, you can see in order to make that, there's 4 essential edges to this thing. So bring these guys back for just a sec. So when I'm making this model, I want to align my sticks, like I drew a line there as well. I want to align my sticks with my board. So to do that, I'm not going to grab from a corner and line it up like this. So you'll see that I'm clipping, but I'm only clipping through half. Essentially what I want to do is clip equally. So I'm going to grab from the midpoint of my stick and move it to the midpoint of my board. So you can see it's perfectly aligned with it. Right, so I'm going to have a little bit sticking out over here and a little bit sticking out over there. That's fine. I do want to make sure that I am aligning the top edge, however, with the top edge of the board because it's my maximum height. Okay, so if I come to the other side, you'll see that it's too long. So there's 2 ways to fix this. The first way is to switch to my selection tool with the space bar, double click on the group, use push-pull, and then move it to the end. Click, use the space bar, click out to finish editing. Another way to do it, if I undo this, is to select the group from the outside and then use the scale tool. Now what this allows me to do is scale an entire group. And so what I can do now is, I know there's a box in here. If you haven't done so already, make X the shortcut for X-ray mode. And so I can see that a lot easier. But I can then click from this central cube and just pull it to that edge. I'll hit X again to turn X-ray mode off. So either way you want to do it is fine, but essentially I just want to make sure it is aligned with my board. So I have this edge going this direction, and then I have another edge going this direction. If I hide this for a sec, and I look at my previous model, you can see we've resolved the clipping here by having essentially this board be split into two parts on either side of this board. Right? So I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but with my stick. So if I unhide, I'll bring back my stick. I'll grab my blue stick this time. And again, I'm going to be conscious to grab it from the midpoint. And I'm not going to copy it here. I'm actually going to move it right to the midpoint of that board. So this one's the correct length, but we're getting this clipping. So if I hide this, you're seeing that we're getting clipping right in there. So we need to resolve that. So just like with the walls, I'm just going to double click to edit it, use push-pull. And I'm going to push this side to the right edge, let's say, of that stick. Click out to finish editing. So a common issue that I'm seeing is that people are going in here, triple clicking on this, and then like copying it over, which sort of works, but now I have a group which actually contains two objects, which is not ideal. So don't do that. Instead, keep this one as it is, click out of it to stop editing it, then copy that entire group over, make sure it's aligned just like that. Now in this case, I don't have a reference right now to know how long this is, so I'm going to go ahead and unhide my reference. Now I can double click on this and use push-pull and just push it to the correct length. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now if we look at this cube, these edges that I've just made are actually the same on the top as they are on the bottom, right? So these edges, they're exactly the same. So this makes my life really easy. All I need to do is essentially select these three sticks and copy them. Now, the way that I did that was fine, but honestly, there's a faster way. Remember that if I click and drag from left to right, it only selects the things that are totally surrounded by the rectangle. So that works really well. Positioning your camera is key. If I go from the top here and I do it like this, like I'm going to get a lot of stuff. But if I orbit to the side like this, it doesn't have to be perfectly to the side, but just roughly to the side, now I can get those really easily because they're the only things that are completely surrounded. Now, when I copy it, I'm going to grab from maybe this point just because it's touching the edge, and then just tap Control and move it down. Notice I was conscious enough to grab it from the bottom because I know I wanted the bottom to align with the bottom edges of my boards. So, cool. We're good there. If I go ahead and hide this, you can start to see sort of what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and unhide. Now I need the verticals, so that's where I'm going to pull my white stick in. And I'm going to position it in between, my pairs here. So I have my top edge and my bottom edges down there that I just made. I'm going to position it right in between like that. And if it's not the right length here, make sure you resolve that first. Like so, for instance, if I scale it and use X-ray mode here, if yours is like this, right? We need to fix that clipping. So I'm going to go ahead and just undo it real quick, like that, and just make sure you push it up to where it's not clipping. So essentially this white stick should be the same height for everywhere in between my top edge and my bottom edge. So I'm gonna go ahead and just copy this over, making sure to grab from a corner each time, not just some random point. I'm seeing a lot of people just kind of grab from here and try and copy it, and then it's like, how do I position it correctly? So the solution to that is, again, to just grab from a corner and copy it. Another thing that I'm seeing also is that people aren't selecting their objects first. They're just jumping right to the move tool, which is generally fine, but what if I want to have two objects, right? So a good habit to get into is to select the object first, then use the move tool and copy it. So this looks fairly good. If I select my reference and hide it again, we're seeing where we're going. But you'll notice that there is one intersection right here that I'm missing. So if I bring back my object, notice there's a vertical line that's running all the way down here. So that's an edge, right? And so everywhere there's an edge in cube 3, I need a stick. So I'm going to copy this white stick right there to this corner of the yellow and the blue. So it should stick out a little bit here, a little bit here. Basically on every quadrant, it should sort of stick out just a little bit. So if I unhide this, or sorry, if I hide it, you'll see that that resolved that issue. Okay, looking pretty good. Now we just need the 4 platforms, let's say the 4 floors. So I have one here, here, and here. And again, these should all be at different heights. If they're not all at different heights, fix that in your reference first before moving on. So here, these all just consist of either yellow or blue sticks in my case. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a yellow stick. And again, I want to make sure I align it with the midpoint of the board. So I'm going to go right here and grab from a midpoint on the stick, tap Control, and move it right there. Now this stick is way too long, so I'll double click on it, use push-pull. You could also use scale, and I'm going to align it with this edge of my stick. Okay. Now I need a blue one, so I already got a blue one right here. Go ahead and copy that. In this case, I'm actually just going to grab from a corner because I have a corner of my stick that I can just use as a reference. This one is too long, so in this case I'll use scale. It doesn't really matter if you use push-pull or scale, but there we go. So a lot of people are stopping here, and they're calling it good, but this is not a rectangle yet, right? I only have 2 edges. A rectangle really consists of 4. So I need to go ahead and add those 4 in. I don't even need my reference at this point because I can just copy this over to the same, let's say, height over here, right? And coincidentally, it's the same length, so that works out, and then I need to copy my yellow one. Now, when I copy the yellow one, notice it's clipping, so just be careful of that. So double-click on it or use scale, and then push-pull, and push it right there. So now we're seeing that I've delineated that whole rectangle. So if I unhide my reference, we're seeing those edges in there as well, which is what we should have. So I'm just going to repeat that same process for all of the other 3 platforms. So I will need my reference. What I'm going to do is actually get in these edges first. It doesn't matter which one goes where, by the way. A lot of people are getting hung up on that for which like board or which stick, sorry, extends all the way to the edge. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Just pick one to make that choice with which one is longer, right? In this case, the blue one is going all the way to the corner, and the yellow one's getting a little bit shorter. I chose the blue one in this case just because I already had the yellow one the correct size, and it's not a big deal. So, all right, so that one's done. Again, I can just sort of continue to just copy this, stick around. Notice here, I grabbed from the wrong point, but not a big deal. I can always move it up. Just make sure the midpoints are aligned there. Just like that, and then I'm just continuing to just pull my sticks over, making a copy each time. Why would I spend time remaking all of these sticks every single time from scratch when I can just change the length of them? It's a super easy process. Now here, careful, right? Like I'm clipping, so just double click, just push pull on it, and then reference here, right? And then again, just to show you that I don't need my reference once I've got these edges in, right? I need the height information essentially. I'm going to go ahead and copy from the midpoint here to right there. Literally once I put that one in there, I don't need this thing anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and hide it. So it was too short on this side. I'm just going to pull it. Looks pretty good, right? I'm going to go ahead and copy this one down. I'm going to copy this down using the up arrow. To lock it in the blue direction. So I'm just going to reference this height to get it to the same height. Looks like I got some clipping here. Don't forget to resolve that. So it might be helpful to remove your reference while you're doing this stuff. But yeah, essentially I'm just kind of copying these pieces up now and just referencing other things. And there we go. So there's cube 7. It looks like I did not copy this one. That's okay. Again, I'll just lock it in the blue, and there we go. So there's cube 7. We've delineated every single edge, essentially, but this time with sticks rather than with boards like we did here, right? So once you're done, you can go ahead and either delete or reference or just simply hide it, and there we go. So this will be useful moving forward with cube 8 because it's based on many of the same principles.